the Seoul Olympic Stadium in Korea, clenching the hand of a man that I had met just a month before and was about to marry. My marriage was arranged by a man named Reverend Sun Myung Moon, who is the founder of the Unification Church, a group otherwise known as the Moonies that I was raised in. Reverend Moon is standing there asking, "Do you promise to love God and humanity and each other?" And I shout back louder than anyone else around me the Korean word for yes, which is nay. I shout back so loud my voice cracks 3 times, nay, nay, nay. This was my path. This was the path walked by my parents and my brother and my best friends. And it worked for them. It had to work for me.
Hey there.
Hello, Cara.
Yes.
There you are. Hello.
Hi.
Jeff in Las Vegas. Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say. I've been up since 6 a.m. doing interviews, but how are you doing?
Doing well. Doing well. Thanks for chatting. I assume this is not live, right?
Well, just we're recording, but it's not live. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes. So, and where are you at today? I'm in Las Vegas. Where are you at?
Oh, I'm in Oakland, California.
Oakland, Bay Area.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Bay Area. Yeah. Originally from upstate New York. But yeah.
I have lots of relatives. You know, I spent a lot of my childhood in Los Altos and Carmel and Monterey. So great memories of the Bay Area. I love it.
Oh, yeah. It's beautiful.
Well, thank you for talking to me today about your documentary, Blessed Child. You know, your story is really familiar because I grew up in a Christian conservative family, meaning that my grandparents had their own churches. My dad built churches. My dad was one of the founders of Oral Roberts University, you know, so there was a lot of similarities in your story and mine, even though you know, we had the summer camps and we had the snow camps and the church 4 or 5 times a week. So, but it was a pretty positive experience coming out of it, even though my attitudes have changed since I've gotten older. Mm-hmm. And but overall, I think your journey with the Unification Church, I didn't see this as a hatchet job whatsoever. I just felt like you just had questions and how your relationships are going to go from this point on. So I found that very enlightening.
Well, thank you for saying that. I had a choice to make at some point in the journey to go the sensational cult expose route or to what I ended up believing would be what I would say more interesting route to me, which was to look at more of the complex picture of all the shades in between the extremes of people's experience. So,
well, you have your family front and center in this documentary. What kind of discussions did you have with them before starting this film? Were they seemed kind of concerned throughout the film of what your angle was, and you said you didn't even know yet. You were just kind of recording things, like documenting things.
Yeah, so the impetus for starting this film was when the founder of the Unification Church, Reverend Moon, passed away. And I had a strong sense of calling that I should start this film. You know, had been something that was in my mind for some time. And I called my parents after I found out, and I found out that they were going to Korea for the funeral. And so when I found that out, I was like, oh, then I have to be there. Shoot. And so from that point, and so my dad basically said, you know, if you want to come, we'll figure it out. And I think that was the attitude through the whole 7 years of making this with them, where they trusted me to some extent, but you know, it wasn't without tension and difficulty and some hard conversations outside of the camera lens for them to be on board. But to their credit, I think they saw the value in it.
And I think like most Americans, my only experience with the Moonies has been news stories of seeing these mass weddings, not really understanding what the Unification Church was all about until I saw your documentary, which really went into some of their beliefs and their practices. But you were there, and that photo behind me, that photo of you shaking hands with Reverend Moon, that is breathtaking. That is such an amazing photo. And that's you. You were at one of those mass weddings. So tell me about that experience.
Yeah, so the church, has a lot of members worldwide. The numbers are different depending on who you talk to. In the United States, it was a relatively small organization, and my parents were some of the earliest members. So my parents knew the Moon family quite well, and I did to some extent as well, which is the reason for that photo with myself and Reverend Moon. The stadium marriage itself, growing up, I had aspired to be married that way, which is probably hard to believe, and had known others before me who had also gone ahead with this matching process. So I found out who I was going to be matched with, married to, a month before this event. And so I did have a chance to meet him. Not everyone has that much time. But we didn't know each other at all. And so it felt like an act of faith in the moment to say yes. And truthfully, at the time, it was actually kind of exciting to be a part of this sort of radical idea expressed through thousands of people getting married together. And so there was this excitement and this faith, and then underneath that were these deep seeds of doubt that I wasn't quite ready to acknowledge. So I remember standing in the stadium that day, just like holding the man who I was marrying, his hand really tightly, just like hoping this thing was going to work.
And I think in the documentary that was almost overshadowing your experiences is your brother Bo and his incredible journey being gay in the church, his attitudes of the church. I mean, he has such courage. I mean, really brave man.
He's amazing. And unlike me, he's a more private person. I mean, I am private to a certain extent, but obviously I made a film about myself and my family, and while resistant, was leading the charge on that front. And my brother Bo is more private, and so I think it was more difficult for him to reveal his life. And I am fully aware that a documentary just about his life could have been more interesting than my own. But he stretched himself to reveal his story in the way that he could tolerate.
And regardless of what you had to say about your experiences in the church, I was just amazed to this day, the love and support that you get from your family. I mean, it was all there. There was no doubt in it. I mean, your parents had doubts during the documentary of how they're going to be portrayed. But in the end of that sentence, they said, "We don't care. We love you." And I just thought that unconditional love is so rare.
Yeah, it is rare. And I think, as you can probably see, this journey was not just about making a film. It was truly part of my own healing. And I think in some ways I had to orchestrate these conversations to actually have conversations that I've always wanted to have with my parents. And so while I knew that they loved me because of some of the things that had happened in the past, I still needed to hear those words. And it was through the making of the film that I could hear them even more powerfully than if they just were spoken on a long drive somewhere.
Well, by the end of the movie, she was my mom too. I just love your mom. She was awesome.
Yes.
So I noticed that also you do speaking engagements. Have you ever done a TED Talk on this, or where do you tour the country? Or when you could tour the country, did you give talks on this? Or
most of my speaking has been with the Moth, which is part of what helped bring this story together. the first public telling of this story was on a Moth stage where, I don't know if you're familiar with the Moth, but they invite anyone to put their name in a hat and go up on the stage and tell a story. And I had been working on the story for a long time, and someone challenged me to do that, and I did. And then I ended up winning that event and going on to the Grand Slam. And so I actually have become a coach of others who feel called to tell their story because of the transformative power I have discovered in the telling of my own in this way. And so I have done public speaking in the service of inspiring others to tell their story, and some more limited speaking just about this story itself.
And I think probably the last line of your documentary summed up your whole experience. I can leave, but I could also stay. I just thought that was just perfect.
Thank you. Took a lot of living to get to that line, and some help.
And also your parents, they're in Kona, Hawaii, because my family has a place in Waikoloa. I mean,
nice.
We're neighbors, so.
Yeah, well, interestingly, they lived out there for 8 years through the making of this film, and just this past year moved back to upstate New York, believe it or not, where they have some deep roots and more family who live there. So
they left
you could trade Kona for upstate New York. No.
They'll regret that after their first winter back, right?
Well, they survived it, but we'll see.
Well, Cara, thank you so much for talking to me about your documentary, Blessed Child. It's just an amazing journey, and I wish you all the best of luck, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks so much, Jeff. Really appreciate it.